What we believe is the next Space Engineers game has been revealed. So naturally, our question is, what makes this future game any different from the Space Engineers game we can play right now? It's a good question, and something I know many of you are probably asking. Therefore, let's go over the big features of the potentially new Space Engineers game. Keen Software House, the developers of Space Engineers and whatever this new game is going to be called, have always been pretty transparent about what they're up to. Over the last few years, we've seen glimpses of a VRAGE 3 engine development. All of this appears to be leading up to this new game product. So today, we'll recap some key features that might make it into the new game. Let's go! Hello everyone, my name is Captain Jack. I've been covering Space Engineers for the last 10 years, and we're about to start the next adventure in covering the new Space Engineers game. We don't know what it's called yet, but for the sake of this, we're going to be calling it the new Space Engineers game, as it looks very space orientated. Please join me on this adventure by hitting that subscribe button to stay up to date on the development of this game with the latest updates. While you watch today's video, comment what feature you are most excited for. I'm really keen to see who wants what. I'm excited for water and block destruction, but you know, I'll show you more of this in just a second. Okay, let's waste no time, let's get into this. Now, quick disclaimer, it's important to remember that this new Space Engineers game is in alpha development. For those of you who are not familiar with this stage of game development, it basically means we're in the very early stages of game production. As such, everything is subject to change. Some things you may see in this video may not end up in the finished game, or could be completely redesigned and look totally different. That's okay. If you want to see my recap of the new game reveal and the teaser trailer, which you're sort of seeing in this video, you can check out my video from earlier this week. Today, we'll just focus on features of this new game and things that have been worked on in the VRAGE 3 engine. I've chaptered this video, so if you're already aware of things like block destruction and the 25cm grid system, you can skip to the other parts of the video if you wish. One of the biggest surprises coming from VRAGE 3, and something we presume will be in the new game, is block destruction. According to Natik, one of the Keen developers and the VRAGE art lead, the Keen team are in the process of developing believable destructions for blocks in the engine. This involves having dedicated fracture material appearing on the cut size of fragments. It basically achieves a new level of realism for the game. It seems this type of game system is still in very early development. As of July 2024, there was only one fracture material for all metallic parts. However, in the future, it seems the goal is to cover more materials and have them as fracture parts as well. You can see an example of this on the screen now. Causing damage to what appears to be some sort of engine has bits flying off everywhere. I kind of like this. If you take hull damage to a ship, you could lose a portion of the hull. Another space sci-fi game had something like this at one point. If we look at Starbase game by Frozen Byte Development, which is still in development, their in-game destruction also had fractured pieces floating off everywhere. It seems ship crash landings will also be changed dependent on terrain. For example, in the video on screen now, you can see an example of a ship crash landing on sand terrain. Finally, we're seeing ships slide in the terrain and come to a gentle stop. I actually really like this, and hopefully it's going to make crash landings a lot more fun. Okay, water on planets is probably one of the most talked about features of the VRAGE 3 game engine. It seems that Keen's goal with the water system is to have it fully interactive and at a planetary scale. Water is going to be supported in the VRAGE 3 game engine and will be able to react to changes in the game environment. For example, ships crashing into it and also destruction to the terrain. So if I cut through the side of a mountain and create a river, then the water will react to how you would expect it. Now, a little disclaimer here, the footage we're seeing on screen is from very early VRAGE 3 engine experiments from earlier in 2024, this year. As such, it's likely not the most up to date when we compare it to something new, which could be showed off soon if Keen want to. Please, Marek, if you're watching this, I know one of you definitely is, please show us some more water experiments, that could be kinda cool. Now, Keen developers have previously demonstrated the wave system, with the addition of wind properties like strength and direction. Using their engine systems, waves are generated to combine many waves together. You can see an example of this system being experimented with on screen now. I wonder if this will make sailing boats kind of difficult in VRAGE 3. That could be kind of cool. In a previous newsletter, Keen said that water possesses an interesting problem. This is scaling an interactive, ever-changing water system to the whole planet, and that is a performance problem. I mean, to be honest, I think we all could have guessed that. Now, for example, imagine changing the flow of water, creating a new river arm, or digging a hole at the edge of the ocean. In essence, creating a new bay. All of this will require some immense performance calculations. To solve this problem, the developers had to look at some properties of water systems that they could leverage. When you make a change on one side of the ocean or lake, it hardly affects the opposite side. This applies to a river as well to some extent. The whole planetary water ecosystem, with rivers, lakes and oceans, is seemingly stable most of the time. It means that although water flows, it does not change its amount. Now, leveraging those properties could help Keen postulate a few rules for interactive simulation. For example, they do not simulate a stable state. Render just visualizes water flow. Now, after every change, Keen could get to a stable state as soon as possible. Large bodies can work as infinite water sinks, a little bit like Minecraft in a way, when the incoming amount of water is significantly smaller than the overall body. Now, rivers will appear to have an infinite source of water, which is kinda cool. This would allow the developers and the VRAGE 3 game engine to simulate planetary water with significant changes being made by players over time. Of course, performance is the key factor here. While it's great to have this volumetric water, if it lags our PC systems to death, what's the point? Now, thanks to the advancement of the VRAGE 3 engine compared to the one the current Space Engineers game runs on, there is a lot of performance optimization, so it seems the developers are confident in this. It seems players will be able to live underwater. A previous demo shows an underwater base with windows and blocks keeping back the water. It has been noted that this will come with engineering challenges. For example, the base is going to need to be air and water tight. This will mean players are going to need to suck water out of it while building. Of course, you'll also need air for yourself while building. I can imagine that this will be a large scale task for players to undertake and maybe like an endgame thing. Maybe we won't be seeing the City of Atlantis anytime soon. Sorry, Stargate fans. Now, in terms of the underwater environment, the first implementation we saw had adjusted distance based fog with a refraction when looking through the water surface. I imagine this will be experimented on more as the development of VRAGE 3 systems continue, but still, it's really cool. Planets in the new Space Engineers game seem to be getting an overhaul from how we know them in the current Space Engineers game. In the screenshots on screen, we can see how many of the individual planet features are coming together to create new environments for players. An example, there is a terrain voxel system which is driven by height maps, detail maps and additional voxel entities. Not to mention the Raymarsh water rendering, which, combined with the experimental cloud system, produces some fantastic environments. Just look at that cute little outpost set up in one of those planets. It looks amazing. Another example of a new planetary landscapes is cliffs. As someone who loves to make mountain bases, I am very excited for this one. It seems cliff landscapes are the most challenging environment for the developers, mainly due to the surface of a height map based terrain system. VRAGE 3 combats it with procedurally placed overhangs and crevices on the slopes. You can see an example picture on screen now, and it looks beautiful. One of the most exciting features of what Keen have been working on with the new engine is cave systems. Now, we don't know too much about these caves yet, but from a few screenshots shared by VRAGE 3's tech lead, caves with water can be found on VRAGE 3 planets. It seems the challenge for the developers was making the water surface smooth to create these ponds. It also needed to make ponds shallow as one water cell, which is approximately 1 meter thick. I'm excited for this. Cave bases are really cool. The ability to edit voxels in Space Engineers has always been fantastic. You can create your own terrain and style to how you want. For VRAGE 3, the Keen developers have been working on many improvements to the Voxel hand tool. This system is used in creative mode to adjust the landscapes on things like planets or asteroids. According to the Keen newsletter and VRAGE technical director Jan Harsnack, the goal is to improve the user experience and add features requested by Space Engineers, which is built on VRAGE 2. According to Jan, spatial organisation is the main issue with the user experience. It seems hard to tell where the voxel hand gizmo actually is when using it in-game. To improve this, VRAGE 3 has improved the voxel hand visibility and shading. It also highlights the intersection of the ground via a depth shader when the gizmo is partially submerged. There are also added markers with decals denoting the closest terrain position in each axis. Keen has also improved the snap to voxel feature, which keeps the gizmo partially submerged no matter how far it is from the player, with a certain maximum distance, of course. The feature can be turned off anytime to regain full control of the gizmo's distance from the player. In addition to standard features like adding and removing voxels, Keen have added material painting without changing topology, a reset to the original voxel topology, and the ability to pick materials. This will provide a much better user experience for when you're creating those voxel things. And also, comment down below, how often do you use the voxel tools in Space Engineers? Personally, I'm very excited for this. The voxel tool is perfect for building crash landing sites on planets and base environments. Still speaking of voxels, which are what VRAGE planets are made of, it seems VRAGE 3 is going for higher quality terrain. As of June 2024, there have been 4 main technical advances: higher density base height, material based detail height maps to achieve medium frequency detail of about 1 meter, composite voxel shapes uses caves, overhangs and boulders to add multiple horizontal layers, material tessellation in the render to add high frequency detail. Yes, I'm aware this might sound complicated, but you'll get the gist. There are many more improvements specifically in the renderer, like depth-based material blending or spherical triplanar mapping, which allows correct orientation of sediments in textures. Basically, this combined makes it possible to achieve breathtaking landscape views by artists. You can see an example of what Keen has done with a canyon video on screen. Moving on to the terrain side of things, Keen has previously shown off an example of the new Asteroid voxel materials. These are aiming to bring asteroids to life with realistic looking voxel materials. We can see some of that with the recently released teaser for the game. In another VRAGE preview released by Keen around 2 months ago, we can see that each asteroid features intricately textured materials, capturing the rugged and authentic appearance of celestial bodies. According to an entry in the Keen newsletter, this is all without compromising on performance. Looking at planets, the Keen software house artists have been taking advantage of the VRAGE 3 planet terrain detail maps. In another development video for the game engine, we can see some examples of before and after. In this video on screen, you can see the character reference for scale. One of the big features that we know will be in the Space Engineers S game is a 25cm grid system. I've spoken about this before, so you may have heard of it, but here's some details. Keen have been developing a new grid system for the game engine. How does this work? Well, the unified grid system can combine any size of block on the same grid. The grid has a 25cm, which is roughly 10 inches, granularity, and block sizes spanning from 25cm through to 0.5 meters, 2.5 meters, and on, with no upper bound, it appears. Block shapes are handled with the same 25cm precision. For instance, a 2.5 meter slope only occupies half of the cubic space, leaving the other half available for further construction. The system adjusts snapping automatically based on the block size you choose, but you'll be able to manually fine-tune connections with the same 25cm granularity. To make rotations easier, when you hold the control key, rotation hints will appear at the block's position, and you can rotate using the WSAD-QE keys while holding control. They've also added visual cues to help align blocks and show you which cells are being occupied or preventing placement, all with a 25cm accuracy. The new render material system supports parallax mapping, which adds texture depth and generates subtle rounded bevels and armor edges between blocks of different colours. Popular features like line and wall building, copy and paste, and the ability to attach pasted blueprints to existing grids have all been retained from the previous game engine. Now, Keen seems to think this system will revolutionise building in their upcoming games, particularly this new Space Engineers S game. I cannot wait to see the works of art you create, and we are just scratching the surface of new features in VRAGE 3 for building, it seems. So, that's a quick recap of some of the features that are being worked on in the VRAGE 3 game engine. As I mentioned at the start of this video, Keen's new Space Engineers S game looks to be in the early alpha stage of development. As such, this does mean everything we've discussed today is subject to change, so keep that in mind. I think features like water on planets will go through heavy development, so what we have previewed today may look completely different to and when it comes to the new game in the VRAGE 3 engine. We're gonna have to wait and see. So, which features are you excited about? For me, I think both the new 25cm grid system and water on planets. I think the grid system will open up a new level of building detail for the Space Engineers community, which is one of the most creative communities out there in online gaming right now. If you want to stay up to date with the latest Space Engineers news and information, for now both for normal Space Engineers and whatever this future one turns out to be, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you very soon, as the next update from Keen on whatever this game is going to be is on December 5th, 2024. Thanks for watching everyone, I've been Captain Jack, and don't forget to say hello and I'll see you very, very soon. Goodbye.